Many spiritual teachings teach that we need to transcend desire to be free, as desire is what keeps us here on earth, in duality, in our pain and suffering. But this often leads to suppression of our unhealthy and lower vibrational desires, which stops the creation of healthy desires, the desires needed to create a beautiful world. Suppression and resistance operate within the law of attraction. So what we resist, we create. We create it within ourselves or without of ourselves. Resisting desire works the same, meaning we create more unhealthy desires by resisting them. And this eventually leads to bigger outbreaks of unhealthy behavior, crime and violence. Of course, there is always balance between resistance and surrender, surrendering to a desire so it does not become too big, and also resisting desire so it does not become habitual or our dominant frequency. The real challenge is to transform our desires into healthy ones. Nearly all desires have a healthy and unhealthy expression. So as we create more outlets for our healthy desires, even if a little dark, we create a nicer world by accepting our darkness for what it is and giving it space to transform, supporting us to evolve. When we suppress emotions like guilt, shame, and anger, they become unhealthy. And once unhealthy, they become even more dangerous to express, as we feel we cannot trust ourselves with these emotions, and we block ourselves from our power. Our throat chakra becomes blocked through the lack of honesty, and our Kundalini cannot rise in a healthy way because we have unhealthy and suppressed desires. Transcending all desire is a very spiritual and noble thing to do, but it only really makes sense after we have done the inner work and made all of our desires healthy. Once we are no longer running from or afraid of our desires or our sexuality, then it can be wise to transcend them if that's what we really want to do. If nobody had desires, if nobody worked to create beauty and to be inspiring, then the world would be a very boring place, probably not worth living in. Strong, beautiful, and creative egos are important if being born into this world is to be a nice experience with art, music, science, language, technology, and all the other things that our human passion creates. We just need to see the difference between an unhealthy, immature ego and a healthy one. A healthy ego mainly operates from a non-dual state of awareness, which is what the polarity framework is priming our minds to do, to know that we are simultaneously separate while also being part of the whole, so intrinsically connected to everyone and everything, and also able to observe ourselves being these two different things at the same time. And as we understand and realize this, we are able to better see and be the paradox that we are. The polarity framework teaches us to see which quadrant our awareness is currently in while becoming more of the other three, and at the same time observing ourselves doing and being both of these things, further creating the multi-dimensional and non-dual awareness that we need to practice Kundalini bodywork. The deeper we look into the teachings of Kundalini bodywork and polarity work, the more we will see this almost fractal pattern of multi-dimensional and non-dual awareness. This pattern teaches us that nothing is really bad, and although sometimes we will feel pain and suffer, most of us can suffer a lot less than we do. And it's not that desire is the root of all suffering, but quite often our rejection of desires or our attachment to them. Once we learn to work with and give depth to our personal desires, our chakra system becomes healthy, sexual perversions and desires to have power over others, dominating them in a harmful way or to be dominated in a harmful way, transform into their healthy expressions. Nearly all sexual perversions have a higher and purer spiritual aspiration. When we dare to truly look and understand ourselves and our shadow. Unfortunately, the porn industry generally uses this against us to make money, which results in people creating a lot of guilt, shame, and secrecy around their desires, again, cutting off the flow of Kundalini. Shadow work in itself is also dangerous, as the act of doing the work can create negative behavioral patterns supported by a dopamine boost, making the behavior addictive. So a diverse and balanced approach to the work is essential. Because we live in a vibrational universe, once we start to look at our shadow to heal it, we are likely to experience the collective consensus reality of what our shadow is, means, and deserves, meaning we create a reality that we don't desire as we try to heal the trauma and the shadows that created our suppressed desires. So there is a real danger of creating a vicious circle opposed to a virtuous one. But if you try hard enough and you are willing to suffer for your passions, you will eventually heal your shadow and start to transform the collective consensual view of reality that we are all part of. Similar to creating an intention, eventually our desires should create a full yes: sex, heart, and mind, physical, mental, and emotional. But when working with our shadow, this is not always possible. It means doing this work and transforming our desires sometimes pushes us to do things that we don't have a full yes for. So there is risk involved and bravery is needed, and sometimes we need to go through the pain first in order to transform it. The video, Surrendering to Our Karma, also gives a helpful perspective on this. Generally, when we understand the deeper meaning of a desire and its healthy aspects, we often don't need to go through with the act of shadow work. The act is just there to help us see the meaning behind it. Selfless desires for humanity, desires to do greater good in the world, are essential, and we all need them. But when moving energy through the body, a level of selfishness can really help. In this sense, the desire to be selfless, to help others, can be seen as selfish, as we are filling our own need to give love so that we can judge ourselves as loving and kind. We are learning to create strong egos, developing people who are worthy to have power in the world. Thus, self-serving desires are essential in the process, as is self-love and self-respect. It is the balance between the two, the balance between light and dark, that allows us to act for the greater good. To sum up, when working with desire in Kundalini bodywork sessions, we need to make having a desire a spiritual experience. And we do this by including our shadow, not denying it, as disagreements between our heart, mind, and sex, and unhealthy desires, even subconscious ones, will stop the flow of Kundalini.